My rotation 411 initiates. So today we're going to finally cover Brad Pitt's Synastry. If you've been following along, you know that in the database, which I'll touch on in a moment, I figured out that Sandra Bullock was actually a wild card, really good match for Brad Pitt had they ever worked together or had the opportunity to develop a personal relationship more. I'm not sure exactly, what their relation is to each other. I should have Googled it, but I'm not aware of any projects that they've done together. So if you know of any projects that Brad Pitt and Sandra Bullock did together, go ahead and write it in the comments. With that being said, I'm just going to make a few announcements while I'm waiting for a few of you to join us. Rotation411.com is where you can get a personal astrology or tarot reading from me. We just did a few updates to the site. You can now book a reading. So it's like if you want a reading in an hour from me when I get offline, you can go ahead and book. Don't book right now because I'm on here. I should have blocked that out. But you just go and register or go to book an appointment. The bottom menu is the easiest way to get there, and you can book right away and get in there and live chat with me. Or there's astrology packages, or there's now the tarot readings are no longer packages. You can just go and you can upload a video if you want to talk to me and tell me what's up, or you can just write your question and then I will send you a video back in your client portal, which is also a new feature on rotation411.com. So it's pretty cool for live readings. Once you get in there and do it once, you'll know how to do it forever. So go ahead and check that out. Definitely register for rotation411.com because I'm going to be coming out with of 3 courses soon. 1 where you just learn basic tarot, 2 where you can tie the tarot to astrology, and 3 probably a beginner's astrology course to start. With that being, and then we'll build on from there. So some of you it might be just good for a comprehensive refresher. Others of you, pick up on things you didn't know. Others of you, it's a good place to start if you're just getting into, occult wisdom and knowledge. But I definitely plan on expanding those courses. So it's a good time to register and kind of feel your way around the site. So with that being said, I did go ahead and pull up the birth charts in the synastry of Brad Pitt with Angelina Jolie and him with Jennifer Aniston and him with Sandra Bullock. Now, the way that I do these, I actually haven't really reviewed them. I did review him with Sandra Bullock because, again, they pulled up as a match, kind of a unexpected match on the database. So divine timing database.com, you can get there quickly by going to moonmatch.love, but that's the astrology dating app that we created to match people based on the astrology that I advise clients on. So, we want the moons to be compatible, and then we want there to be, deal breaker or divorce aspects, which are like between the malefic karmic planets like Saturn and Pluto. So if you want to see if you have any matches in the database, I encourage you to go check it out. But I am able to go in the back. We've been entering celebrities. So if you don't have a match in there yet, you might match with a celebrity. And when I was back there, I saw that Brad Pitt had matched with Angelina Jolie. I know he actually matched with a few people that have already entered as well as Leonardo DiCaprio. I know 1 or 2 of you. Rose, she follows the channel and she's one of my clients on one of the platforms I work on. And I was like, did you enter the database yet? And she's like, I matched with Leonardo DiCaprio. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. So, hey, hi. Oh, this is covering it. Manuel, I think. Gutierrez and Vineeth, good morning. And Frank, hi, Frank. Okay, so it looks like we have a good crowd in here. Let's go ahead and jump into the synastry and then we'll do questions at the end. So with that being said, we're just going to go over them one by one, and I'm going to do it, like I said, I haven't had time to review these charts, so I'm going to do it like I would do it in a live reading. So if you come do a live chat appointment with me on rotation411.com, this is kind of how it would go. I'd be looking at the chart, doing it. Hey, thanks 336A. All right, so let's go ahead and look into we're just going to look at their moons really quick because I have their actual birth charts pulled up. Now, the great way to look at the celebrity birth times and get a pretty accurate time is to go to Astro Theme. And on Astro Theme, it tells you how accurate their birth time is. So for Angelina Jolie and Jennifer Aniston, we have a AA reliability score. So that's one of the best, and it's from their actual birth certificate. For Brad Pitt, it says it's an A, which is better than some. I can't remember who it was. We've done a lot of celebrity synastry. So if you haven't subscribed to the channel, you can check out the celebrity synastry live playlist. But with that being said, there there was one that was like a C. I think it was Jay-Z. It was like a C reliability. And I'm like, I don't think this birth time is right for him. Um, but Brad Pitt does have an A, but it's from somebody's memory. So I don't know, take it how you will. But it says Angelina Jolie's. We're gonna start with him and Angelina, and then do him and Jennifer, and then we'll check out this would have been match if him and Sandra Bullock had gotten together. They actually would have matched in the database, divinetimingdatabase.org. If you go to the .com site, you can create your own database, and it's free. Okay, hey, hi everybody. We do tarot cards on here, Kyle. I think it's Kyle, yeah, but just not this video, so stay tuned for that. I will be getting on more to do those. I am from the west coast of the United States. All right, the Pacific Northwest and California I've lived in for a very long time. All right, so that being said, we're going to just go ahead and look at Angelina and Brad real quick. So what I do is I look at their moons. Oh, okay, that's Sandra and Brad, Jen and Brad. Okay. All right. So we have Angelina and Brad, and first thing that we look at when we're looking at whether two people are compatible for a lifetime is their moon signs. So let me just double check on Angelina here. Her moon is 13 degrees Aries, and his moon is 22 degrees Capricorn. So they're making a wide square. Now, moons in a square, squaring signs, even so when it comes to the moons and even the winning times, check that out on astrowin.org. They have the winning times. If you like to gamble, you can even just kind of play games and win. If you check out the winning times, you don't necessarily have to focus on the angles as much. In my theories of astrology, it's more about, are the signs friendly? Because you can have a Mars in Leo and a Mars in Gemini making a square angle, but they're in friendly signs. So you guys have asked me that before. Those of you who know, I would say that friendly signs are going to trump angles. All right. With that being said, Angelina and Brad's moons are not in friendly signs, but they're not making an actual square. It's not really, it's a wide square. So it'd probably be another angle, probably wouldn't even be considered a square. Hey, Nick. Oh, you're talking to Vineeth? Okay. Sorry about that, Vineeth. Anyways, with that being said, I will get moderators in here if we're going to have a good following. And I know the numbers kind of bounce around. It's not always right. But with that being said, so we looked and we know now that Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt do not have friendly moon signs. So in my theories, the couple will generally last about 10 years, give or take. Now, I don't know exactly how long they were together. Probably was about 10 years, maybe a little extra because of children. Sometimes people will stick it out longer. So now we're going to go into, so if you go to divinetimingdatabase.com/stars, or you can just go to divinetimingdatabase.com and click the compatibility report in the menu, you can see exactly what I'm looking at right now. I don't know how it will show up here. I do Streamlabs sometimes, so I can actually do the screen share, but sometimes it's just easier to do it this way to get on here and get it done. So with that being said, you can just scroll down. And now I have been noticing there's a lot of good aspects. So okay, back up a second. I write these descriptions in here, so there are some typos because I have a million things going on, and I see them because I use this as a shortcut for work. I used to use Cafe Astrology as a shortcut because it's a great way to look up someone when you don't have the birthplace and time. It's based on Knoll Island, 0 degree longitude, latitude, and universal time, but it is fairly accurate. The only thing that's slightly off is the moon signs, and there is no ascendant sign on here. There's no house system. I took that out. So with that being said, you can scroll down, and right now you can automatically see, like, it'll say deal breaker, and this generally means that a couple isn't going to last, or it will say true love bliss, and those are like the best ones that you can have, but it doesn't include the moon aspects, which are important as well. But it is a great shortcut to see. If you're compatible with someone, you can type in anyone, even familial relationships. So that being said, we're just going to go ahead and scan down here and see, we know that their moons, Angelina and Brad's, are not compatible. Let's see if they have any deal breaker or divorce aspects. And, if you guys want, I can go into another video sometime and elaborate on, what are the things that they have that made them fall in love. But because we're covering him and her and Jennifer and Sandra today, I'm not going to go too deep into each one. We're just going to look at their moons and look at whether they have any deal breaker divorce aspects, which is what I would do with you if you came to me for a live chat reading. You can book an appointment on rotation411.com. Again, if you want me to go over this with you, or if you want to do it yourself, if you're a DIY type of person, you can go to divinetimingdatabase.com/stars, and you can type in your birthday with anyone and check it out. It'll have the same definitions. So first negative aspect we have here between Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt is Mars square Mars, which is a deal breaker. It can be found in marriages that last 15 to 20 years, but it usually does not end well. These two have very different libidos and ways of going about things. That's the beginning. If you want to go check out if you have Mars square Mars with anyone, I just gave you and all the links are below as well. So, go check that out. They do have Mars conjunct Jupiter. Angelina's Mars is conjunct his Jupiter. This is where they did work well together for a period of time. They felt a sense of solidarity and camaraderie. This was probably Mr. and Mrs. Smith was Mars conjunct Jupiter. But that is a very, kind of like Mars square Jupiter. If you guys haven't watched that video, check it out. That's where a lot of hot flings come from, very disappointing ones these days. That's where you meet someone and you hit it off and you feel like you met the one, and then the romance dies in about 2 to 4 months and you're stuck kind of wondering why that one got away. And that's also the one I think is for those shotgun weddings, like Kim Kardashian and Britney Spears had when they were younger. They probably had Mars square Jupiter with those fellows because they got married in like a week and then divorced in a month. So with that being said, Mars and Jupiter are Jupiter's not super quick, but he is big and he spins really fast. So Mars and Jupiter hit it off right away. In a conjunction, you're going to feel that. Even in a square, you're going to really feel a sense of camaraderie that fades out very fast. Now, when we're dealing with like Pluto and Saturn, those are further out. They're a lot slower. So, you're not going to feel it as fast. Now, Mars square Mars, where it gets tricky, is Mars is a planet of physical passion and libido. So it's kind of like a moon square, like Angelina and Brad have as well, is you're going to feel this emotional connection in a moon square. In Mars, you're going to feel a physical connection, but it's a friction and you don't realize it right away because it's like everybody wants what they can't have. So they're like, oh, but then you're like tripping over this person and they rub you the wrong way and you don't like how they do things. Now, especially with Mars square Saturn, which is also a deal breaker, but tends to slip through the cracks a little bit more with couples. You're going to feel irritated. Like any kind of Mars square, whether it's one that couples can work with or not, is going to create a sense of frustration and agitation where you just, Mars rules Aries and Aries wants to go. It's cardinal and it wants to move. And so when you have your Mars squaring someone, they get in your way. You're going to be tripping over them. All right. And at first they're going to light your fire a bit and then they're just going to frustrate you. So they have Jupiter trine Neptune, which is a great soulmate aspect. And, it's good also for a creative career and working well together. But then they have another deal breaker. So the first one they have is Mars square Mars. The next one they have is Mars square Pluto. So we generally see couples divorce or break up around 4 or 5 years with Mars square Pluto. I don't know how long they were actually legally married because a lot of Mars square Plutos, I don't know how to put this, I'm going so fast, but a lot of divorces around 4 or 5 years, they call it like the 7-year itch. So around 4 or 5 years, you're going to see Mars square Pluto or Pluto square Saturn. Is generally the aspect I see in those divorces. Mars square Jupiter, it's either going to be a really long marriage that's been really rocky, or it's going to end within the first 6 months to a year. Some people kind of try to hold on to it and kind of pretend like it's more than it is. Like, we've been together 3 years, but we really, had a good start, and now I'm just like holding on to this thing that, I can't accept the truth type of things a lot of the time. Let's see, if you don't mind, may I have one suggestion for you? If you don't, I don't know. Is it a friendly suggestion? Is it constructive criticism? All right. But again, I'll answer questions at the end. I'm probably talking a little fast because I want to get through this today. All right. But, other than that, I'm not going to, like I said today, go into all their aspects together. Usually we do a deeper dive into the Synastry and Celebrity Synastry because we're covering more than one. So same way as if you come to me for a reading, a personal reading, and we look into the Synastry, unless you order one of my packages on rotation411.com, if you're just coming to me for a live chat reading, and soon there will be phone call and video chat as well. But if you're you know, I'm just going to, if you give me 3 people that you want me to run, you know, some people like to come to me and we run through all their exes and see what went wrong and see what they're kind of looking for in their own birth chart. You know, it's going to be a little bit briefer. Okay, this is what's here, good and bad. But if it's just one person and you really want to dig into them, then we can, and you know, especially if you have their birth time in place, then we can really get into the details. All right. With that being said, we now know that Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt did not work out because their moons are in square signs, Aries and Capricorn, which love to butt heads, and they have Mars square Mars and Mars square Pluto, 2 deal breaker divorce aspects. So they were not meant to last as a couple. It was a frustrating connection, to say the least. Jupiter square Neptune might have kind of blown them up and allowed them to be this greater than life thing for a moment in the public eye. And there may be other aspects in there if we dug deeper. But let's go ahead, and I'm curious because I actually haven't looked at these. Let's look into Jennifer and Brad. So Jennifer's moon is 23 degrees Sagittarius. Actually, that's interesting because, and I'm surprised she didn't, because there must be, okay, all right. I'm like, I'm surprised she didn't pull up in the database with him, but her moon is actually semi-sextile Brad's within, let's see, 2316, 2250. So, within a degree, it's a, I think I looked it up, 60 minutes. So 10, 26, within 26 minutes, they have a tight semi-sextile. It's less than a degree, I believe. It's 26 minutes. So they have a very tight semi-sextile, and semi-sextiles are the only time excuse me, I have come to see in long marriages that a couple can sustain where their moons are in opposite polarities. So, you know, Capricorn is in a feminine sign and Sagittarius is a masculine sign, but her and him had a very strong emotional connection that lasted quite some time because of this tight semi-sextile. So they were much more emotionally connected and in harmony, even though they're very different in nature, than him and Angelina were. All right, and so let's go ahead and see if him and Jennifer had any deal breaker divorce aspects. Now, before I scroll down, I would say I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't have Venus square Neptune, or even, actually, I'm kind of surprised that he didn't have, what is the one I told you guys? It's Venus square Saturn. I'll see in the couples that are cheating on. I'm surprised he didn't have that with Angelina since he kind of, you know, took off with her. But I wouldn't be surprised if him and Jen don't have Venus square Neptune, because that can create sort of, you know, but I don't really feel like he cheated on her. He kind of just left. So let's see. You know, and if you watch my celebrity synastries, I don't really go into their personal details, just sort of what's mainstream, not even mainstream, just sort of the general facts. I don't go like digging into the timelines of their history because it just takes too much time when I'm looking at all the mathematics of their astrology. But you guys know, and you can always look it up. If I touch on something, you can go look, oh, you know, was that a thing with them? Sometimes I'll pull up how long were they together again. So these two, their suns are sextile. Let's say that really quick. And then their moons are semi-sextile. This is Brad and Jennifer Aniston. Their Jupiters are in opposition. So, you know, sometimes that can create where they have to have a first marriage before they can marry each other. I see that with Jupiter square Jupiter or Jupiter opposition Jupiter quite a bit. It's like they'll be together when they're younger, but then they have to end up marrying other people before they get married. I don't know that they had any marriages prior, though. I don't think so. That's one of those things you guys can look up if you want in your free time, and you can comment in the playback if you want to help everyone else out. All right. I need a little sip there. All right. So, wow. Okay, so here's an example of where, so kind of back to what I was saying, Mars square Jupiter usually doesn't last very long, but sometimes you'll see it in couples that do last longer, but it's usually kind of rocky. And generally, I would say I'll see it in, like, with my clients, right? I see it either in these 6-month flings. It could be like a year, but they're like, what's going on? It's very hard to get on the same page. It's hard to pin each other down. Or I'll see it in like 25-year marriages where someone's coming to me and giving me a whole laundry list of baggage. So year 10, you know, he had this affair, and, you know, so it's not a fun one. It's very hard to pin each other down. It'll be like One of you will be finishing grad school, well, you know, because Jupiter rules higher education, and the Mars person is just running around working odd jobs to support the Jupiter person, but they never get to see each other. And then the Jupiter person will finally graduate, and the Mars person will be like, oh, great, finally, the Jupiter person is going to be home more because they're going to settle into their career. And then all of a sudden, the Mars person will like never want to be home and start a new hobby. It's just very hard to pin each other down, and it'll be like, one of them's longing for the other, and then they finally get them, and then the other one, like, you know, it's yeah, that's, and Johnny Depp and Amber Heard had it as well. They also have Pluto square Saturn, which is why they were battling long after the divorce. If you have Pluto square Saturn with someone, again, you can check it on divinetimingdatabase.com/stars, even without the birthplaces and times. I say run for the hills at all costs. But so Mars square Jupiter, if you really love the person or any other aspect, I always encourage you all to follow your own hearts, but definitely, you know, be mindful if you're wasting your time. Because if you check it out, that video, are you wasting your time, was about Mars square Jupiter. That's also on the channel. So they did have Mars square Jupiter. You know, sometimes with like Mars square Uranus or Mars square Jupiter, because they're working these kind of crazy careers, it can kind of help them adapt. But if you're just a normal couple that works a 9 to 5, it's going to create a lot of disruption. As if you were celebrities, you know, traveling odd hours and working, you know, different jobs. They also have Mars square Saturn, which is a deal breaker divorce aspect. You generally see couples divorce around probably around Mars square Saturn. It's still going to be, with the 7-year itch, it's going to be Mars square Pluto, Mars square Saturn, and Pluto square Saturn. That's generally what breaks a couple up around that time. Now, there are exceptions. I do see them more and more, but generally it's not the happiest. Mars square Saturn, like I said earlier, you feel like you're tripping over each other. You're just kind of always frustrated with each other if you're like stuck in the house. But they do have Venus sextile Mars. It's Jen's Mars though. You know, if you guys have watched any of my videos that mention this, it gets a little tricky when it's the woman's Mars and the man's Venus, even in a positive aspect, because the man will kind of play the coquette, I think is how you pronounce it. Like, you know, he'll be the passive one, and then Mars is like, come on, come on, come on, you know, and it kind of forces the man into this weird feminine position, even in the positive ones. So, but it is okay if it's flipped. But here we have her Venus square his Mars. So if it was like her Venus conjunct his Mars, and then they had her Mars sextile his Venus, then it's really good. It's like a double whammy, if that makes sense to you guys, if you've been following along. I'm not going to go too deep into it. Bye. Thank you for joining us, Vineeth. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Okay. So let's scroll down. That's it. That's it for them. Just going over, you know, the most important things. Their moons were compatible enough to last a lifetime. That may be why they're still very close friends, and they don't have the vitriol or the sort of bitterness that we're seeing with Angelina and Brad. Now, people, you know, on the surface are probably going to attribute to that. Well, they have children, you know, and they have to deal with all these things. But no, you know, and Jennifer and him didn't. So maybe it was an easier divorce. No, Jennifer and him had more harmony in the emotional placement than him and Angelina. But they, at the end of the day, had two deal breaker divorce aspects, so they ended up getting divorced. So we can blame it on Angelina for being a homewrecker, or Brad, but actually him and Jennifer probably were showing face. I talk about that too. Sometimes we have to take, you know, these celebrity relationships with a grain of salt, because they do kind of have to stay in things to put on a show. Now, sometimes people have to do that for, you know, finances or familial, you know, or social community ties as well. And I'm sure there's, my mind's, I don't want to think too much into this now, but maybe I'll make a video on it when it snaps in my brain. I know there's aspects that can indicate that as well. Couples staying together because of those sort of obligations. Kind of like how Saturn square Saturn is going to keep a couple apart because of those kind of obligations to others. There's probably aspects like Venus square Saturn, where a couple's going to kind of stick it out even though they can't stand each other, because, you know, and sometimes Venus square Saturn isn't the worst. Depends on how you like Saturn. Like if you're a double Capricorn, Venus with Saturn in your 7th house, Venus square Saturn might be make you feel secure, you know. But anyways, so there's probably aspects like that that are going to indicate to you, okay, this couple's sticking it out because of priorities and obligations. So maybe when that clicks in my brain a little more, And I'm not trying to stay to the point. We can do a special video on that. But yes, if I had looked at Angelina and Brad's chart, or no, not Angelina, Jennifer and Brad's chart, I really only downloaded this information in 2018 when Jupiter was in Sagittarius. But that's a whole nother video. But for those of you who know, we all had great information and knowledge downloads when Jupiter was in Sagittarius in 2018, and this was where I got my downloads. So with that being said, if I had known this back, I don't know what year they divorced, but if we had done we did Kanye and Kim in that video. I'm trying to use the headphones and I didn't quite know how to use them, so I'm talking really slow. It's really obnoxious, but if you can bear through it, I predicted that Kanye and Kim probably weren't gonna last. So if I had done their celebrity synastry video, Jennifer and Brad, years ago before they broke up, I would have told you that they're probably not going to make it. And they didn't. And same with Angelina and Brad. But in the database, so if you want to go find your own match in the database, it's moonmatch.love or divinetimindatabase.org. You can go find, it's like a dating app. You can go find someone that you just automatically, the computer computes and you line up. So when I'm back there playing around, I see one day that Jennifer Bullock and Brad Pitt actually would have been a great match. And I'm like, interesting, because like I said in the beginning of the video, do you guys know if they've ever worked on a project? So for those of you who've been following along, I keep kind of going on this rant, and I told you guys I would do this video. And actually, my man earlier, I'm like, I'm going to hop on and do the Brad Pitt video. He's like, haven't you been saying that you're going to do that for a while? So I'm like, yeah, I'm going to get it done today. So, so we're just going to quickly go over like a, hypothetical scenario if Brad Pitt and Sandra Bullock had met up. Because she hasn't had the easiest love life either, although I do think she has a nice partner now. I'm not quite sure what's going on with her, but I do know some of it, and she's such a sweetheart in my book, I think. So her moon is in Aquarius, 21 degrees 58 minutes. So her moon is in a very tight semi-sextile to Brad's as well. The difference here is that, and we talked about this with David and Victoria Beckham when I discovered that the semi-sextile is sort of this cure for the polarities being opposite on the moons. So go check that out if you want to hear more detail about it. It's the Victoria and David Beckham video. It's in the Celebrity Synastry playlist, where this one will be on the playback. But in Vedic astrology, you generally want the man's moon to be underneath the woman's moon as close as possible and not the other way around. If it's same sign, it doesn't really matter. So, anytime the moons are in the same sign, it's really, really ideal. Not always easy. It can create runner-chaser dynamic. It can be very overwhelming for the masculine because the moon is a very feminine planet. But that's a whole nother video as well. And I'm sure it's in lots of my videos, throughout. So with that being said, what's more ideal about Sandra Bullock and Brad's semi-sextile, and it's not really a huge thing, but versus just for demonstrative purposes, tell me which one it is, A or B, former or latter. It would be better that his moon is in Capricorn, the sign before Aquarius in the semi-sextile, which is Sandra Bullock's moon, than where Jennifer is Sagittarius, 21 degrees semi-sextile, his moon in Capricorn. So Jennifer Aniston was holding more of the emotional weight. He has to go all the way around the wheel to get to her, where he could just kind of go 30 degrees and he's at Sandra Bullock's moon. Oh, you need some support. I'm Capricorn moon, I'm very serious. And your Aquarius moon, you're very, broad, I don't want to say broad, that like you're all about humanity, and so your mind is here and my mind is here, but I can emotionally support you, anyways, either way, the semi-sextile is going to work. It doesn't really matter, but according to Vedic astrology, you want the man's moon to be lower in the zodiac or the lower degree in a conjunction. But I do touch on that, I think, in the, it's in the soulmate synastry series. But with that being said, let's just briefly go over the aspects between Sandra and Brad, and then we're going to wrap it up here, but we can go over any questions really quick. Let's see. Okay. Sandra and Brad, their suns are quincunx, which can be a little challenging, but for those of you who know, I say suns being in the same polarity, and if you want to know about polarity, I talk about it in so many videos, and it's a wide orb. It's a 7.67 orb, so, anytime the suns are making a contact, I would say it's a good thing. It's going to create, a draw to each other, a power source. Sun is our life force, even though there could be some challenges there, but I don't think they'd really rub each other the wrong way. It'd be better to have it in a quincunx than making no contact at all. Let's see. And it's a soft aspect. So yeah, they don't have any deal breaker divorce aspects. Some of the strong things that they have is her sun is trine his Jupiter. That's a good marriage aspect. Her Jupiter is trine his Venus. Another great marriage aspect, great love aspect. Her Jupiter is square his Saturn. This one I haven't particularly noted as any kind of issue, but yes, over the years they might have very different ideas about things, so they may have totally different political ideologies or something like that. And that could be possibly too why they just kind of seemed to be very separate from each other. Like we never really saw them work together or anything. I mean, there might be an award show clip one of you could pull up and link where they're, presenting together or something. I should have Googled it. I think I might have tried to one night. Oh, the sun and the moon. That's very cute. I love that. I eat that up. Okay, so Mercury trine Pluto, they could have very deep conversations. They probably could have acted on a very deep level. They probably would have been great scene partners. Saturn square Neptune, again, generational planets, a little bit at odds. Now, what are their birth years really quick? 64 and 63, so they might even have these echoing natally. Again, I'm not going to go too deep into each one this time, but the sun sextile Saturn, so her Saturn was sextile his sun. This would have created a lot of stability and longevity in the connection. Mars trine Uranus, a lot of creativity, a great physical spark there. So her Venus is opposite his sun, and that could be, especially if it was her Venus square his sun. Venus in a man's chart is his ideal. So if it was his Venus opposite her sun, I would say this would be more the way. If his Venus, right, his ideal woman, was opposite her sun, her dominant personality, that can make him go, oh, she's not really my type. So sometimes they can go vice versa. So it could be her Venus opposite his sun, even though it would generally be his Venus, if you guys get what I'm saying there. Could have made him go, from far away, maybe like, oh, she wasn't, maybe made her not seem approachable to him or something. But in an opposition, it can balance. It can be complementary. If it was a square, and especially if it was his Venus, I would say this is why he didn't approach her. I think that she was his type, or he might have had a crush on her, but thought she wasn't approachable. So you'll see that. But with that being said, I'm going to wrap it up here. I hope that you guys got some good information. Coming soon this week, July 13th was crazy. That was yet like 2 days ago. I got stung by a bee. You all know what was happening in the world of politics. I might have to just go over that day. That's the day that that my father passed away a few years ago. It was a good friend of mine who passed away that same year's birthday. So I don't know. There's things about 13 and 12. I got to make a video on that too, you guys. Like some people say, there is there the 13th sign, and I could make a whole video about that. But it also goes to, like, I don't know, some of you know and some of you don't know that, like, if you go to Seattle, there's no 13th floor in any building. In LA, they do have some 13th floors. I wonder if the Hotel Cecil has a 13th floor. I don't know if you guys saw that documentary. That'd be interesting. And then the airplanes don't have a 13th row. So we definitely need to get into that, like the 12 signs, the 13th sign. They say that maybe the government got rid of 13 because it's powerful. Some people, like conspiracy theorists, and some people say, but then I don't know, I think there's this perfect thing about 12, the 12 signs, and for those of you who may or may not be religious, the Bible has a lot of buried wisdom for occultism as well, whether you want to go the religious route or not. There's a lot written about 12, and it all kind of adds up when we look at astrology. So I don't want to like alienate anyone. So if I make a video about like how, what are the, and I would probably only do one or two, like what are the biblical references to astrology, and you're a subscriber, just don't watch it if you don't want to hear. But there are a lot of ties there as well. So going into 12, there's a lot in there. 13 kind of going more into like government stuff. 12 going into more religious stuff. So it's hard to tell, like, you know, did they cover up 13 to throw us all off a bit? Or is everything kind of perfectly a whole number, you know, an even number? It's like even versus odd there, right? Yes, planet movement. Yes, astronomy is a huge part of astrology, and that's what a lot of people don't realize. That just kind of want to discredit astrology. I will also say, kind of, I don't know why I'm going off on this tangent now, but we can also talk a lot about how the media likes to throw you guys off by saying there's a 13th sign. So it's either they're hiding the power of 13, or they're throwing you off, because there is a lot of power in knowing your own birth chart. I believe it's the Chinese culture, and I mentioned this before. They say don't give people your birth times. You know, it's kind of like when you go to a therapist or a lawyer and you have your confidentiality, because when somebody knows your birth time, they have a lot of power over you. So that's what they say in the Chinese culture. Um, so with that being said, you know, I want to get more into doing those kind of occult videos too, and just talking about those sort of things. But again, if it's not your forte, just skip over that video. You know, I'm working on the big 144 series as well. We got Sagittarius, Sun, Aries, Moon coming up next. And then I think I'm going to start skipping around a little more. So if you want to see your Sun, Moon, Rising video, I know I tell you guys, write it in the comments. And that's the other last thing I want to skip to. I'm going to start doing videos once a week as well, where I go through and instead of, you know, I try to reply to all your comments in writing, and I used to be better about it, but I do work on several platforms and I have a full clientele and a whole life, you know, a busy life. So, I want to get on here and just kind of do, maybe, because I'm trying to get on here actually 5 days a week, believe it or not, but I have to kind of carve out the groove. So I might do 1 day a week, you know, get a little more regimented, where we go over just comments that you guys have written, and I can answer them live instead of writing them back. Because some of you are like, okay, so his Mars is this house, this house, this house, you know, and I could kind of illustrate it and demonstrate it and use it as an example. So with that being said, I'm going to wrap it up here, but if you want a personal reading from me, register at rotation411.com. Now you can chat with me live. You can book an appointment, chat with me live, or you can upload a video to me and I will send you a video back by doing the live, the tarot readings. We kind of changed the format of that. Or if you want me to like really dig into your astrology, you can check out the astrology packages on there and I'll still get back to you with a video and your charts. You get all your charts with those. Kind of trying to make the packages a little bit cleaner so that, you know, you guys can get on there. Because I work on several platforms, and Rotation 411 has been picking up the business, so I'm streamlining it quite a bit. So it's getting better and better. Check it out. And if you want to be matched with your perfect astrological match, we have plenty of people in the database now, and we could use more men. So if you're a man seeking women, it's kind of good to swim in or fish in a pond, that's populated with a lot of women, if that makes sense. I don't know. All right. I'm gonna leave now. Wait, can I get your live timing? I usually try to get on around 3 or 4. Sometimes it's a little earlier, p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So it may be earlier in the day, but I generally won't be hopping on after 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So and I try most of the time. I'll kind of if you're subscribed and you have the notification bell, I'll try to I'm not really good at scheduling the videos out yet, because I'm a Mars and Gemini. Check out that video. So I'm just doing all the kinds of things all the time, and I don't have enough assistants yet under me. But I try to say a half hour, an hour ahead. Hey, I'm gonna hop on and do this. So that gives you guys time. Oh, okay, she's gonna be on. The other day though, I kind of did that, and then I couldn't end up getting on because something came up. But that's the first time that's happened. So generally, if I say I'll schedule it like a half an hour out, and then I'll give it 10 minutes. So if you guys are kind of waiting, you'll get a notification. Hey, Robert. Yes, some of you are married. So if you want to, look into your astrology with your partner, definitely check out the astrology packages on rotation411.com, or you can book an appointment and we can just quickly go over, have your birth places, not your birth, your times and places and the dates. If you only have the dates, that's awesome. We can still look into it. If you want to do it yourself with just the dates, you can go to, again, the links are all below, divinetimingdatabase.com/stars. Or if you have the times and places, I've seen a lot of you have been subscribing this past week to not only the channel. We had a few new subscribers and I wasn't even on here, but also signing up for divine timing database.com. That's the free one where you can make your own and store everyone that you love or that you're curious about. Another thing is, all the sites are like fixed and working properly now, but divinetimingdatabase.com, the forgot password thing is kind of messed up. So I got to talk to the programmer about that. But all the other sites are fully functioning. They can only be improved from here on out. So definitely go check out rotation411.com and divinetimingdatabase.org if you haven't already. And oh yes, well, Vineeth, if you subscribe and you hit the notification bell, it will tell you when I'm going to come on live, all right? But yeah, usually around 3 to 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, I'll pop up. So I'm sending you lots of love, blessings, and light, all of you, and lots of abundance and peace, especially in these times in the world. All right, love and light.